One of your constituents is affected by this, aren't
Absolutely. Rashawn Davis is due to be deported. He has a 6-month-old child. His wife is in complete distress. I've just found out just 10 minutes ago that he's been requesting medical help because he has a heart condition, and he's been refused medical help. His wife is concerned that the stress of this could kill him. He was convicted of stealing a couple of mobile phones when he was 19 years old.
He came here at 11.
He came here at 11. He has no surviving relatives in Jamaica. His grandma died a few years ago. So he's got no surviving relatives in Jamaica. He's only ever known this country. He was schooled in this country. He actually worked for a football club, coaching young kids. His 6-month-old child, Kyla, is missing him. He's had no access to telephones, mobile phones, and the government was taken to court in January this year and told that they need to redress that, but they haven't done. And the thing is, we know the government makes mistakes. They have wrongly deported 164 people previously. 5 of those were murdered that we know of back in Jamaica alone. And why would we do this again? You know, they committed to have a report done, and we haven't seen the report. We've seen leaks from the report, but we haven't seen the report.
It's been completed, hasn't it? The Windrush Lessons Learned report you're talking about.
We understand that it's been completed, but the government's refusing to publish the report. Now, unless it was all lip service before the general election and they didn't mean anything that they've said, they should halt this flight. We should see the report. All the recommendations should be implemented, and then we take it from there. Why risk the life of my constituent and 49 others? Why would we do that?
And to people who might listen to this and say, look, sad though his story is, and that story or something like it might be replicated many times over in that group of 50 people. He committed a crime, and the government has a legitimate claim to say that he's not British born, so he's not British.
Well, his parents were from, as we understand it, the Windrush generation. There is a thing about fairness and whether you punish people twice. He was convicted under joint enterprise, which is now unlawful. So if it was to happen now, he wouldn't be considered to have committed a crime. All of these things we have to consider. It's about fairness and due process. If he already did 2 months in prison, and now all these years later, and he's never committed an offence since, we're now going to deport him and dump him in a country that he doesn't know, and he hasn't got any family, and his wife and his child are British and are here. Is that really serving justice in any way, shape or form?
How old is he now?
He is 30 now.
Do you know why there's been that sort of decade or more gap between the mobile phone crime, the serving the sentence of that, and then this deportation? Did it come out of the blue?
According to the family, it just came out of the blue. He had no idea this was going to happen. As I say, he was working. He was coaching children's football in a well-known football club. They weren't expecting this at all. It's come out of the blue.
So do you conclude from that? I mean, neither you nor I probably can say for sure, but do you conclude from that there has been a political decision to round people up?
Well, I conclude from this, Sheila, that we have a Prime Minister who wants to be seen to be tough, and a Home Secretary who wants to be seen to be tough, and they think that this is a good way to do it. And I say, if we attack the most vulnerable. I'm not saying that if somebody commits a crime that they shouldn't be punished. Of course they should be punished. There is a contract of agreement when you get your indefinite leave to remain. And of course, hardened criminals, people that come over to this country as adults who haven't laid any foundations
specifically to commit crime.
Absolutely. Then of course they should be dealt with a certain way. But in this case, and as the leaked report shows of lessons learned, if you've come to the country as a child, if you've made a mistake, surely we are a country that can forgive a mistake if they've moved on to change their lives and have done good. He hasn't committed murder. He hasn't committed rape, as the Prime Minister had said. And this is just frankly untrue. And what I'm saying is, why don't we just, we're unsure. So if we're unsure, why don't we just halt the flights, investigate everybody that's on the flight, and let's be sure that we are sending the hardened criminals back instead of people who are not hardened criminals.
Well, there'll be
and are
sympathy.
leaving a
I'm
life
sure.
behind.
I'm sure there will be sympathy for that in many quarters. Simply, not least because of what you said just a few moments ago about the 160 odd mistaken deportations in Windrush and the various Windrush claims, legitimate Windrush claims that many people have. But you say we're unsure. But Boris Johnson, based on the statements he's made about this, they sound sure. I mean, that's not good enough. You have to investigate that. But he says no. It is something the British people will support. They've got it here. The people of this country will think it right to send back foreign national offenders.
Yeah, but we also have to look at the details of what's happening. I mean, this is somebody who came to the country as 11. I know that Marsha Decker-Dover's constituent came over when they were just 5 years old. And so we have to really look at this in the round to what sort of
and
country,
regard them as British children.
Yeah. And British citizens, they were British citizens. My constituent had indefinite leave to remain. And the Windrush generation, we are still trying to, only 3% of people who have made a claim under the Windrush compensation scheme has been compensated. People have died, waiting for justice. People have gone hungry. People are homeless. People have committed suicide under the Windrush scandal and the hostile environment. Why can't we just stop this hostile environment and be a compassionate country that we believe that we live in?
So do you believe that Boris Johnson, Priti Patel, the government, are they mistaken, or are they knowingly playing with a heavy hand for political theatre to look a certain way? Do you believe that it is that brutal?
I think it's a leaf out of the Trump playbook. I think there's many things that this government is doing which is a leaf out of the Trump playbook.
These are our Mexican border cages.
And we have to be aware and mindful of what's happening, because we don't want our country to, this is a crossroads of our country, and we don't want our country to go down the wrong road, and we have to stand up for what's right and what's fair.
So when Boris Johnson says, let me repeat that quote I said a moment ago, the people of this country will think it right to send back foreign national offenders. You say what? You say yes, but...
I say, if you say to people in the country, we are sending back murderers and rapists, then of course people will say, well, of course, if they weren't born in this country, if they've come over here and they've committed murder and rape, we don't want them in our country. Of course, that would be the reaction of everybody. But if you say this person came over here when they were 11 years old, they made a mistake, they've paid for it, they've turned their lives around.
They have a 6-month-old child.
They have a 6-month-old child. The mother, his wife, doesn't want to be a single parent. You have to think again to say, are we making the right decision as a country who are compassionate and fair?
How much do you think the colour of their skin plays a role in this? Because I'm trying to imagine, let's make your constituent a white Polish guy with a 6-month-old child and a clean record since that 19-year-old self committed the mobile phone crime. Do you think there'd be a different response, both politically, governmentally, even socially, from people like me to it?
Well, the reason why the Windrush scandal happened is because black people, African Caribbean people, are often easy targets. And one of the excuses that Boris had given was about the length of jail sentences. Well, we know if you take this back another step, that young black men get longer sentences for exactly the same crimes as young white men.
This is something David Lammy unearthed, isn't it?
Absolutely,
amongst others, yeah.
The Lammy Review. And that hasn't been dealt with. So if you take each step of this case back further
you think
and
it has parallels?
just try and dismantle it, you'll see that there are systematic and institutional structures which are prejudice against young black men.